We build our cities and monuments under the assumption that they will last. We pour concrete and forge steel, expecting our presence to be a permanent fixture on the landscape. But nature operates on a different timeline, waiting for a single fracture in our design. On the night of April 26, 1986, the thriving community of Pripyat, Ukraine, learned exactly how fragile human engineering can be. A fatal miscalculation at the nearby Chernobyl nuclear plant's reactor number 4 triggered an explosion that tore through the sky, ending a city's future in a matter of seconds. The ensuing invisible fallout, a heavy blanket of radioactive poison, forced over 49,000 residents to flee their homes overnight. Today, the exclusion zone is a ghostly portrait of suspended animation, where wolves roam empty streets and forests digest the crumbling remains of schools and playgrounds. High in the hills of southern Italy, the medieval village of Krakow offers a different history of abandonment. Originally constructed in the 8th century as an elevated fortress, its stone walls were designed to outlast military sieges and human enemies. But Krakow's walls could not defend against the earth itself. In the 1960s, a series of severe landslides fractured the town's foundations. 2 decades later, a violent earthquake struck the region, forcing the remaining inhabitants into mass evacuation and leaving the towering structures entirely hollow. Whether triggered by the arrogant missteps of atomic science or the violent, unpredictable tremors of a shifting tectonic plate, the result is identical. The loudest, most vibrant centers of human life can be rendered totally silent by morning. Off the coast of Japan sits Hashima Island. Throughout the mid-20th century, this tiny, heavily fortified concrete outcrop was the most densely populated place on Earth. It was a city entirely engineered around a single, highly profitable purpose: mining coal from the ocean floor. Then the global economy shifted. Petroleum replaced coal as the world's primary energy source, and the island's profitability evaporated almost overnight. By 1974, the mining operations ceased, the population vanished, and the immense seawalls were left to decay in the salt air. A similar pattern of extraction and abandonment played out in the harsh landscape of Namibia. In 1908, the discovery of diamonds drew German colonizers to the arid dunes, where they built Kolmanskop, a town boasting absurd, unsustainable luxuries like casinos, theaters, and a commercial ice factory in the middle of the desert. 3 decades later, the diamond veins ran dry. The massive mining conglomerates packed up their equipment and left. Without the financial incentive to maintain the town's perimeter, the desert simply opened its mouth and allowed the heavy dunes to drift through the grand living rooms. This is the slow starvation of economic abandonment. Settlements constructed purely on the illusion of infinite resources cannot survive the moment those resources are exhausted. When the money leaves, nature issues an immediate eviction notice. Sometimes the attempt to engineer nature for profit results in devastation on a staggering regional scale. The region of Karakalpakstan in Central Asia stands as a testament to the fatal consequences of human greed. This map illustrates the catastrophic decline of the Aral Sea. Once the 4th largest lake in the world, its water source was aggressively diverted by mid-20th century Soviet agricultural projects. They sought to transform arid land into cotton fields, effectively draining a massive inland sea to sustain a fabricated economy.
What remains is a toxic, bone-dry wasteland. Once thriving fishing ports like Moynok are now entirely landlocked, surrounded by miles of contaminated dust and the rusting skeletal remains of fishing fleets stranded in the sand. Along the banks of the Tungabhadra River in India, the ruins of Hampi demonstrate that even empires built of solid granite are vulnerable. In the 14th century, this was the wealthy, heavily fortified capital of the Vijayanagara Empire, a civilization carved directly from the surrounding bedrock. In the 16th century, a coalition of rival forces breached the empire's defenses, sacking the city and decimating its population. Stripped of its protectors, the vast network of intricately carved stone temples and merchant streets was surrendered to the elements. Nature is deeply patient. It allows us to clear forests, drain lakes, and stack stones into impenetrable walls. But the very moment our economic stability fractures or our empires fall, the environment begins the slow, methodical process of consuming our legacy. There are places on Earth where human settlement was never possible to begin with. Iran's Dasht-e Lut is a blistering expanse of wind-carved yardangs, where satellite measurements have recorded surface temperatures reaching a lethal 70.6 degrees Celsius. Yet, in a landscape so hot that human skin would burn upon contact, scientists have discovered complex extremophiles. Life thrives in the dirt here, operating perfectly fine in a geological extreme that immediately rejects human biology. Further south, the Namib Desert has existed for an estimated 50 million years. Its massive, shifting dunes predate human evolution entirely, existing on a terrifying, deep timescale that makes human history look like a rounding error. Within its borders lies Deadfly, a blinding light clay pan scattered with the scorched, petrified remains of camelthorn trees. Because the environment is entirely devoid of moisture, the wood cannot decompose. The trees are simply frozen in a centuries-long purgatory. These extreme realms act as a mirror. They demonstrate that the Earth operates on scales of heat, pressure, and time, where humanity is entirely irrelevant. That irrelevance is perfectly preserved in the freezing isolation of Antarctica. As the world's coldest and least explored continent, it remains the ultimate unconquerable boundary, guarding mysteries trapped deep beneath the ice. 4,000 meters below the surface lies Lake Vostok, a body of water completely severed from the outside world for millions of years. Discharges of heavy iron produce flows of blood-red water, carrying ancient, oxygen-starved microbes that have evolved in total darkness. We see nature's eerie independence again in the desolate stretches of the Mojave Desert, home to the phenomenon of the sailing stones. Massive, heavy boulders lie at the end of long tracks etched into the cracked earth, having dragged themselves across the basin without human touch. The mechanics are delicate and entirely natural. On rare winter days, thin sheets of ice melt just enough to turn the basin slick. When the desert wind kicks up, the ice acts as a raft, quietly dragging the heavy stone across the mud over several hours. These abandoned ruins and untouched anomalies suggest a reality that persists without us. Human civilization is a fleeting spark. When our machines stop and our cities are left behind, the silence returns, and the earth quietly reclaims itself.